Hey, good afternoon to my fellow Yorktown crew members and family. And also want to say hello to the O'Connor family, because that's really why I'm making this video, folks. It's Johnny Long, Master Chief Long, and I had the opportunity and the honor to be able to go down to the memorial service for Captain O'Connor a week ago Saturday. And I'm sorry that I'm getting this out a little late. I've been kind of busy doing some other stuff after we got back up here from Norfolk. But I wanted to talk about Captain O'Connor for a moment. Captain O'Connor's daughter, Kimberly Melnick, called me earlier this morning, and we had a really, really great conversation. What a cool family. And we talked about things about how devoted and how the relationship between Mrs. O'Connor and Mr. O'Connor, Pete and Maureen, went, and what a great guy he was. And I couldn't do anything but confirm everything that she said, because I absolutely agree with everything she said. Here's a guy, class of 65, Naval Academy, okay? And that'll play into a story that I'm going to tell here in a moment. But class of 65, Naval Academy, known to be a good ship driver, good tactician, all those things that you have to be an outstanding surface warfare officer. Took command of Donald B. Berry. Had a good run on there, and as most of the Norfolk guys know, that they were Desron 2 and FF 1085, Donald B. Berry, I'm pretty sure. And so then as things went on, he became a commanding officer of an Aegis cruiser. Now you have to understand, back then, Aegis cruisers, there weren't many of them. I think there were less than a dozen. And those people that were put on there, you have to remember that system was mainly designed to go up against the Soviets and stuff. So you needed somebody that was there that had an even, steady hand, knew what they were doing, tactician, knowledgeable, all those things. And I'll be darned if we didn't get lucky and we got Pete O'Connor. One of the things that Maureen and Kimberly and I also talked about was that we had a word that we associated with him. And when she brought it up to me, I was just sort of like, well, you know, that's pretty much right. But then I took a look at it and I saw what fidelity really meant. Because Pete O'Connor was the type of person that word was actually meant for. Because he was a man that was always devoted, had allegiance to the Navy, his family, his wife, all those types of things. And he was loyal as a captain, loyal as a shipmate, and just a really, really good guy and a great person. He liked to have interaction with people. The father who was doing the memorial service said that Captain O'Connor liked to sit and talk to people. He did. I remember on occasions being in CIC with him. He'd be up at console number 40, and you know, we'd be in condition 3 or whatever. Didn't have a TAO right then. And I'd actually have conversations with him. That's when I learned that he was from Philadelphia and I came from Scranton. And that was actually kind of cool, because we were both kind of Pennsylvania guys. Like I said, outstanding commanding officer. Very, very sound as far as the decision-making process. And as long as you were honest and you were telling the truth, Captain O'Connor, even if something went wrong, his main thing was, okay, everything's going to be fine. We're going to be able to figure this out. We can move on from this. And that's the way he commanded ships. And I was so happy to be able to be with him. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story here. So I was in OS2 at the time, E5 for folks that maybe weren't in the Navy. And I was coming up for orders. I'd done an extension on Yorktown. I'd done the first deployment. The captain that was on Yorktown at the time asked me to do second deployment. Told me, you know, I'll help you get choice orders when we get back, all this other type of stuff. But as we all know, he left a little bit earlier than what we expected him to. So did my opportunity as far as choice orders go. So we finished out the med cruise with Captain O'Connor. We got back into the United States, and it's time for me to go up for orders. I let my chain of command know that, you know, I'm supposed to be getting help here, getting some orders and stuff. And right then, the United States Navy comes out with this directive that operations specialists and fire controlmen will be detailed priority 1 to be recruiters as far as the United States Navy goes. Well, all my shipmates are probably sitting here laughing at the video at this point, because they know Jim is not going to make the best recruiter in the world. And so I kind of made a decision that I wasn't going to go do that. And I didn't want to do that. So there's a little rule in there as far as if you've if you haven't been to, if you've been to captain's mast within the last 12 months or 48 months or whatever it is, you can't be a recruiter. So me, being the sea lawyer that I am, I decide, hey, if I just go out one night, stay out late, don't come in until about 12 o'clock, they'll have to write me up as far as being unauthorized absence, and that means that I'll have to go to captain's mast, and that'll get me out of recruiting. So I went back to my chain of command, and I sort of let them know, you know, they needed to do something, waited about another week, they didn't get anything done, and I wasn't getting any answers. So I went ahead and I pulled the trigger, and I stayed out overnight and, you know, stayed out long. And this time not, this time just for those purposes. When I got back to the ship, of course, you know, I got wrote up, you know, all the things that you don't want to happen, but in this case, I did want to happen. Ended up going to XOI, Executive Officer's Inquiry, and told the XO exactly the truth as far as what was going on and why it happened. And my XO looked at my department head and asked him if that's true. And the department head did agree with it, that is, I did contact him and let him know what's going on. And so the next thing that I know, 3 or 4 days later, we were out at sea. We had midshipmen on board from the Naval Academy doing a training run with them. We'd gotten back from deployment, all that stuff. We were out with Iowa, the battleship. We had a really, really good time out at sea, but then it was time for captain's mast. So I remember getting up at the captain's mast, and if you have ever gone to one as an observer or as a participant, you know, being the last one in the queue is not a good place to be, and I was the last one to go in. So when I went in, just before I went in, Chief Schlegel, the Chief Master at Arms at the time, came up to me and said to me, hey, do you mind if you have midshipmen, have some midshipmen observe a captain's mast because they've never seen one? Well, I'm just sort of like, well, yeah, I guess so. So we're going to do that. So I go in, you know, hand salute, all that type of stuff. Captain asked me to explain myself. I told him exactly what I told the XO. The captain sort of stopped the captain's mast right there. Turned around to the, confirmed with the department head that those were the true things that had happened and all that kind of stuff. Turned around to the midshipmen that were observing and asked them, so what do they think the problem is? Now, this is classic Captain O'Connor. What do you think the problem is here? Now, midshipmen, on the other hand, they're going to stay quiet, and they were quiet. You know, didn't want anything, didn't want to give an answer because they thought maybe their answer would be incorrect. Well, he said, well, the first thing is he said, my chain of command kind of failed me because the word didn't get up to me that I had a sailor on board my ship that was having this type of problem that I probably could have dealt with by making 1 or 2 phone calls. The second problem that I have here is that OS2 Green, who on board my ship, I know he knows how to knock on the commanding officer's door if something's wrong, and if it had to do with something as far as maneuvering the ship or something while we're out at sea, he'd be the first person to call me or knock on the door to give me a heads up on something. Didn't come to the captain. And he said, that probably bothers me more than anything. So he went on to talk about it, and he handed me some paper. Here, read this. And it was orders to the Naval Academy. And the part of the academy that I was getting sent to was CNAV, which CNAV and ProDev, Professional Development and Seamanship and Navigation. There's not a lot of enlisted people there. You know, your co-workers at that point are lieutenants, lieutenant commanders and stuff like that. So I wasn't too hot about that when I kind of read it. But the thing about it wasn't recruiting duty. And he told the midshipmen, you know, that somebody like this will be able to, you know, work at the Naval Academy and learn a lot of stuff and help out the Navy. So he helped me. At the same time, he awarded me. So that, yes, I did have my NJP, so that I didn't have to go to recruiting duty, non-judicial punishment. He awarded me a certain amount of money, which was to go to MWR, the Welfare and Recreation Fund as far as the ship goes, for parties or for things as far as the ship goes. He reduced me in rank for 3 months, and as long as I stayed out of trouble, I didn't really lose rank or anything like that. And he gave me a restriction and extra duty of 1 week restriction, 1 week extra duty, and suspended that. and wished me luck as far as going to the Naval Academy goes. So that's my Pete O'Connor story right there. And that tells you the kind of man that he is. I had the opportunity to be on there with him through about 4.5 to 5 months. And I don't think that out of all the commanding officers I'd have, I put him in the top 2. And I put him in the top 1 if we go back to that, you know, loyalty, allegiance, and devotion goes. Captain O'Connor's career after had a good run on Yorktown. Was ready to retire. Left Yorktown in March of '90, and one of the commanding officers on one of the other Aegis ships, cruisers, ended up getting relieved early. And when he got relieved early, bang, they needed to have a commanding officer that knew how to run an Aegis cruiser. And Pete was in the middle of processing out of the Navy at that point. But because of devotion, allegiance, fidelity, Pete stepped up to the plate for the United States Navy one more time and went and took command of the USS Philippine Sea. And I think he spent March, April, May, June, July, about 4 or 5 months there as the commanding officer in an interim position until the next commanding officer arrived. But that's the kind of things that Captain O'Connor was about. He'd take care of his own. He'd take care of what we needed to do. We did things right the first time. Mrs. O'Connor, Mo, if I may, thank you for letting us have him in that time. And I say the same thing to Kimberly and to Madeline and Andrew, as well as Joshua and Grant, the grandkids. Thanks for letting us have your grandfather in our life, because he did good things for the United States and did good things for, you know, young men like me to teach me how to be a better person and how to be a better leader throughout the rest of my Navy time. As I said before, Master Chief Long and I attended this event, somber event, I do want to say. But at the same time, the actual Mass itself had a good levity to it, that we all knew that we were there to support Pete O'Connor. In this COVID environment, I'd say that we had between 70 and 100 people on the grounds there. Maybe not all of them in the chapel at one time, but it was quite a show for 2020. As I said, it was an honor. Johnny told me that the next day. I said to him, I said, hey, thanks for going down, you know, showing up with us and you representing the Yorktown Association as he always does. And he told me that it was an honor. Now, in closing, what I'm going to say here is, to those grandkids, and I'll go back to Madeline and Andrew and Joshua and Grant, I'm going to tell you something. As we were at the Mass, I was watching you guys. And one thing I'm going to tell you about, each one of you has a piece of your grandfather. So each one of you has a piece of that greatness. I hope that your life, you take that greatness and make it work like your grandfather did, because I know that he was always proud of you guys. It was kind of a sad day, but at the same day, it was a good day of remembrance. And I prefer to sort of sit here and think about the positive things as opposed to the negative things. The other thing that I will bring up too, I know now that in heaven, they've got a real commanding officer up there. I know in heaven, of course, he's got a commanding officer over him. We all know who that is. But I know that there's always a good conversation that's going on up in heaven. With that, thanks for listening to me. Hope to see everybody soon. I'd like to tell the family members of Captain O'Connor, please don't be strangers to us guys at the Yorktown Association. We look forward to seeing you. You know, I think that all of us that ever served with your grandfather, your father, or your husband will all say unanimously that he was a good man and that we enjoyed every moment that we had the opportunity to serve for him. With that, I'll let you go. Everybody have a great day. My name's Jim Green. See you later.